So, hello everybody, this is Bante Joe here, and just here at Petticoat Creek Conservation Area in Pickering, and thought to record a short Awada for the internet. So I thought that maybe could start with a little meditation, so we can lean forward a little bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath, can know when it's coming in, and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And can focus in on the breath at the tip of the nose. And if notice any patterns of tension or tightness around the nose, around the face, can just let those relax. And can practice breathing in and out from this area at the tip of the nose. And when breathing in and out from the tip of the nose, can be helpful to change one's perception of the breath, so that it's not just air that one is pulling in and out of the lungs, but it's a kind of energy that's all around and coursing through the body. And it's possible to pull it into and out of any part of one's body that one might like. So one can imagine almost as if one is pulling in breath energy from all directions. And before we finish meditating, can spread thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short reflection on the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So, hello everybody, and hope that you're having a great day, wherever it might be in the world. And so yeah, here is fall in Canada, and might be able to see on the video here, there's kind of, oops, got my boots here, put these behind. There's kind of a lot of leaves all around, so this is the kind of time that the leaves fall, and we get kind of colors changing, so very nice time of year. And also this year has been especially nice because it's really warm. So I think today was 16 or 17 degrees, which is unusual for fall. But I thought to put on my hat anyways, to keep a bit warm. And so there was a gentleman on the internet who asked a question, thought to record a little Dhamma discussion around that, which was how to deal with kind of difficult people. So people, I guess, encounter difficult people in various situations in one's life. People encounter them at work or at home, or at family reunions, or even at a temple or a mosque or synagogue. Wherever people go can encounter people who are difficult, who one might not get along with well. And part of the reason, there can be several reasons for this. One interesting thing is that, not everybody has the same personality, the same kind of outlook on the world. There are a lot of different ways to approach living in the world. And a lot of these different ways can be a matter of kind of personal preference. And so, in the Buddhist teachings, there's people who have strengths in different faculties. Even among, say, people who become stream mentors, there's some who are prominent in faith, some who are prominent in concentration, and some who are prominent in wisdom. And so there was one monk who was famous for assigning lodgings to the different monks. He was, I think, the first monk who became what's called a community official. His name was Dabba-Malaputta. He became an arahant when he was 7. And his job was to assign lodgings to the different bhikkhus. And so just as a bit of a kind of a fun story, which was in the Vinaya, he had psychic powers. And so bhikkhus would arrive at night on purpose to see his psychic powers. And they'd ask him for a lodging, but they'd ask for one really far away. So then he would enter in what's called the fire element, and his finger would light up on fire, and he would take them to their lodging using the light from his finger. And he used to assign lodgings to people who were of similar characters. So he would, for the monks who liked to recite the Dhamma, he would assign them together lodgings with other monks who liked to recite. For monks who liked to practice meditation, who were interested in samadhi, he would assign them lodgings together so that they would be quiet, they wouldn't disturb each other. And for monks who liked the Vinaya, he would assign them lodgings together so they would discuss the Vinaya. And so in this way, all the monks with the same characteristics lived together. And I mean, not exclusively, but they had lodgings together when he assigned them. And so that meant that people were with people who they could get along with. But of course, in the world, it's not always the case that it's possible to always be around people that one has similar outlooks to in every way. And so for this reason, there can be friction, even when people, both sides, have good intentions towards one another. Both sides have kind of good wishes towards one another. So one of the important elements that's there in the Buddhist teachings and in monastic life is that there's a lot of different options for that, kind of many, and probably many books that have been written on it. But one of the ones that kind of leaps to mind is that it's always possible to rather than saying something to that person, rather than kind of, going to try to hash it out. It's also possible, as another method, to disengage with them a bit. Just kind of step back a bit. And then always when one wants to speak to them, try to make sure that one is mindful of one's speech. Kind of living in kind of more Asian communities as opposed to Western communities, one tends to notice that, like in Asian communities, people have this, in Western communities too, but I think it's maybe well developed in Asian cultures, maybe a particular cultural strength. They have this kind of ability to interact with people in a lot of different subtle ways, and kind of they have this ability to go into gray zones in their interactions with people. So I don't know how to describe the gray zone method, but it's like if there was a dial, and the dial isn't just on or off, but it has settings from like 1 to 100, and you can set the dial where you want. So if one is dealing with somebody who's difficult because of a mismatch in personality, then it doesn't. Then it's good to be able to have this skill to kind of adjust the dial, so that one doesn't always have to kind of like go and hash it out, get to the root of the issue. One can try to gauge using one's intuition. Okay, this person didn't like it when I did this. What way can I approach them in a way that they will like, that they will understand? And in this way, one gets this kind of understanding of how to interact with each person in a way that's harmonious. And this kind of comes from setting the dial. So if one has a bad interaction, okay, rather than try to, blow up or whatever it might be, one can step back a bit. Okay, wait a minute, that didn't work. I'm trying to do this thing that's wholesome. Why don't I try approaching it from another angle, or another angle, or another angle? This is something that one notices about really skilled meditation teachers, is they have students sometimes, really different personalities, but they approach them all in very different ways. Kind of try to teach them the same thing, but from different angles. Basically learning the characteristics that different people have, and then approaching them in a way that they'll like, that will be harmonious, that will be peaceful. So this is one thing, is having this capacity to step back. Can possible to disengage oneself if the situation gets tricky. If the person is going very badly, okay, just try to engage on a minimal amount, just what's necessary. But also it can be good to have this idea to set the dial. That's one situation where people just don't understand each other, but have good intentions. Another potential situation is sometimes there is in the world people who might be malicious or have genuine ill will towards one. So in that case, what one wants to do is to try to take appropriate steps to protect oneself. If somebody's has like an actual malicious ill will towards one. So generally what one's going to encounter in a usual situation isn't like somebody wants to beat you up or beat somebody up. Might just be like somebody wants to needle if it's a family reunion, maybe there's a family member who likes to poke with some kind of harsh words just to get a bad reaction. It's kind of this, it's basically not a good intention towards a person. Or it might be somebody at the office who just doesn't like, another person, or maybe feels a sense of competition towards them, or whatever it might be. There's so many different variables in human interactions. But if somebody has a malicious intent towards a person, the first thing one of the things that's really important to do is to always make sure that one never develops a malicious counter intent. So to the family member who likes to poke, never getting kind of angry to want to poke them back or make them feel bad. To the coworker who wants to make one look bad so that they can elevate themselves, or the person in the group of friends or group of social situations who wants to make another person look bad so they look good, whatever it might be. Never to develop angry thoughts towards that person, or never to wish ill for them, like may you fail, may you do bad. So in those situations, one of the best protections one can have is always have this intention that, can I find a way that we'll both win? That we'll both of us will benefit, whatever the situation might be. If it's the family member, there's so many shades of gray in these situations. If it's the family member, can there be a way that we can both interact that will both be harmonious? If it's a coworker, can there be a way that we'll both interact so we'll both look good? These kind of things. Basically trying to find a kind of way that there's a win-win situation. So if one has this kind of intention, okay, may we both do well, or this kind of attitude of non-hatred, then the next thing is that if one goes forward with that intention and there's still malicious attempts to attack, okay, it's better to disengage, kind of do what one can to defend oneself. Not defend oneself in terms of like spearing back, but just setting up a protection. So if it's a family member, say, and they're trying to poke, okay, well just, don't go into situations with that family member where they're going to poke. You can just, if they come up to talk, you can, say a few words and then, get up and leave if you want. Or if it's a kind of co-working situation, say somebody's like maliciously trying to sabotage one's projects, I don't know what it might be, then one can kind of take appropriate actions to speak to the necessary authorities, speak to the necessary people at the company, after, taking appropriate steps to make sure that, that person doesn't engage in that type of behavior. And in this as well, it's not with an attempt to kind of destroy anybody else. It's basically an attempt to, just stop somebody from doing malicious things. So actually this kind of intention, this non-malicious intention, this intention that comes when there's this, I guess you'd say kind of misunderstanding that comes just because people have different personalities, or there's kind of friction that's caused from genuine malice. This kind of intention that one might have towards people, may we both be well, may all beings be well, that's really one of the best protections one can have in dealing with difficult people. Because when one has this intention, if one kind of sets that out halfway, the other person doesn't meet, one knows one needs to disengage. And it might not work out so well with that person. I mean, we might not have something good that'll grow, but then oftentimes another opportunity will open, another kind of door will open where we'll be able to find situations where we can interact with people in ways that are harmonious, in ways that are good. And so for this we need to have the practice of metta, the practice of goodwill, having this kind of mind of goodwill, learning to do that and spread it to all beings, learning to make that as a kind of basis in one's mind. So it becomes like a default habit. That's what's like water tamps down the anger. And so when this kind of anger tamps down, when our reactions stop towards another person, that in itself is a kind of very good, one of the most powerful messages one can send as well. Somebody kind of flares up at you or at oneself, and then there's no reaction. Again, the whole thing tends to fizzle out. And then sometimes later on that situation can heal itself. So in all these things, underlying them is the practice of metta, the practice of goodwill. And if it's kind of people who are just a little bit of friction, okay, we can step back, try to approach that person from an angle that's easy for them to, I don't know how to say, approach them from an angle which is harmonious in our interactions with them. And if they're a different personality type, different sets of interests, how do we approach them so that we can interact peacefully? If it's somebody who's malicious, okay, trying to find a win-win situation if it's based on competition. If it's somebody who's malicious, they just don't like us, okay, then disengaging from that. But all the time when they attack, never, basically not responding out of anger. The Buddha says I think it's like a cracked gong. There's kind of no sound when somebody hits it. There's kind of he also gives this simile of there was this time a Brahmin came and insulted him a lot. And he said, what happens when guests come to your home? And or if you go to a guest house or something like that, and you want to offer somebody food, they don't eat it. He said, well, it belongs to me. The Brahmin who was trying to insult him said, well, it belongs to me. And the Buddha in that case said, in the same way, you insult me, but I don't take it, it's all yours, you can keep it. In other words, if somebody's angry at us and we don't get angry in return, then that's theirs. They keep the anger, but it doesn't come back to us. And in all situations where anger or malice or whatever type of hatred is involved, the solution to that is metta. It's this kind of attitude of goodwill. And that's the best protection that we can give ourselves and other people, is not developing a mind of hate towards them when they react hatefully towards us. And oftentimes in those situations as well, if we behave that way, then unexpected avenues can sometimes open up, even with people who are malicious towards us. So all the time having this background attitude of metta and trying to act skillfully, trying to act in ways that are harmonious, trying to act in ways that are appropriate, having this intention to find ways that are kind of win-win for both sides. These are things that protect us in our interactions with people who might be difficult. So those are just a few thoughts for today. Also, I'm sure many other ways to approach that, but just thought to pass that along for reflection, and hope that everybody has a great day, and wishing you all the best till next time.